A controversial thesis, challenging the gender status quo. Esther Vilar's The Manipulated Man, published in 1971, ignited a firestorm of controversy. This wasn't your typical book release. It was a cultural event that shook the foundations of societal norms. Vilar, an Argentine-German author, dared to challenge deeply ingrained societal norms. Her central thesis: men were not the oppressors, but the oppressed, skillfully manipulated by women and a society structured to benefit the latter. Imagine a world turned upside down, a world where everything you thought you knew about gender roles was questioned. That's precisely what Vilar did. She took the conventional narrative and flipped it on its head. She flipped the script on traditional gender roles, sparking outrage and igniting debate. People were forced to reevaluate their beliefs. Her book became a lightning rod, attracting both fervent supporters and staunch critics. It was a polarizing work that left no one indifferent. Even today, decades later, The Manipulated Man continues to provoke strong reactions. Its themes remain relevant in contemporary discussions about gender. Vilar's writing was bold, audacious, and undeniably provocative. She didn't hold back in her assertions. She didn't shy away from making sweeping generalizations, a stylistic choice that further fueled the flames of controversy. Her words were a call to action, a challenge to the status quo. Whether one agreed with her or not, one thing was certain. Vilar's work forced readers to confront uncomfortable truths about power, manipulation, and the dynamics between men and women. It was a mirror reflecting societal complexities. But The Manipulated Man wasn't just about challenging the status quo. It was about questioning the very fabric of societal constructs. It was about igniting a conversation, forcing society to confront deeply ingrained beliefs about gender. It was a catalyst for dialogue and introspection. And in that, Vilar undeniably succeeded. She made people think, argue, and reflect. Love it or hate it, The Manipulated Man remains a significant cultural artifact, a stark reminder of the complexities of gender dynamics. It continues to be a touchstone for discussions on gender, power, and societal roles. The art of manipulation, women, society, and the strings they pull. This chapter delves into the intricate dynamics of power and influence, exploring how women navigate and sometimes control the societal structures around them. Vilar's central argument hinged on the concept of manipulation. She posited that the true power dynamics in society were often misunderstood or misrepresented. Men, she argued, were not the dominant force they were often portrayed to be. Instead, they were victims, ensnared in a web of feminine wiles. This web, she suggested, was intricately woven with societal expectations and personal insecurities. Women, according to Vilar, held the true power, using their cunning and sexuality to control men and bend them to their will. This power was not always overt, but often subtle, manifesting in everyday interactions and relationships. This manipulation, Vilar claimed, was not always overt or malicious. It was often subtle, woven into the very fabric of society. It was a dance of influence, where women learned to navigate and exploit the social norms to their advantage. From a young age, boys were conditioned to be providers and protectors, taught to value women's approval and equate it with success. This conditioning created a framework where men sought validation through their roles and responsibilities. This conditioning, Vilar argued, made men easy targets for manipulation. Their desire to fulfill societal expectations made them vulnerable to the subtle influences exerted by women. Women, on the other hand, were raised with a different set of expectations. They were often taught to value their appearance and social skills, learning early on the power of charm and persuasion. Their worth, Vilar argued, was often tied to their appearance and ability to secure a man's affections. This societal pressure shaped their behavior, encouraging them to become adept at using their femininity to influence and control. This societal pressure, she claimed, encouraged women to become masters of manipulation, using their femininity to gain power and advantage. In professional settings, this could translate to using charm and social acumen to navigate male-dominated environments. Vilar's depiction of female manipulation was often blunt, even shocking. She did not shy away from portraying women as strategic and calculating, challenging the traditional narratives of female passivity. She painted a picture of women as calculating strategists, playing on men's insecurities and desires to get what they wanted. This portrayal suggested a complex interplay of power, where women used their perceived weaknesses as strengths. This portrayal, unsurprisingly, struck a nerve, particularly among feminist circles who saw it as a gross misrepresentation of women and their motivations. They argued that Vilar's views oversimplified the nuanced realities of gender dynamics and ignored the systemic inequalities faced by women.
Now, let's delve deeper into some of Vilar's most provocative statements. What exactly did she mean when she said men were the true victims? And how did her assertions challenge the feminist movements of her time? We'll explore these questions and more in this section.
To understand the impact of Vilar's work, it's essential to consider the historical context. The 1970s were a time of significant social upheaval and change, with many questioning long-standing traditions and norms. Traditional gender roles have long dictated the behavior and expectations of both men and women. Men were expected to be the breadwinners, the protectors, while women were seen as the caregivers, the nurturers. These roles were deeply entrenched in societal norms, often leaving little room for deviation. From a young age, children were taught to adhere to these roles, with boys encouraged to be strong and assertive, and girls to be gentle and nurturing. Men were expected to be the breadwinners, the protectors, while women were seen as the caregivers, the nurturers. This division of roles was not just a social construct, but was also reinforced by laws, media, and even religious doctrines. Media, in particular, played a significant role in perpetuating these stereotypes, with TV shows and advertisements often depicting women in domestic settings and men in professional environments. Vilar's book came at a time when these roles were being questioned, but her perspective was a stark departure from the mainstream feminist discourse. While many feminists were advocating for equality and challenging the traditional roles assigned to women, Vilar's work suggested that men were, in fact, the ones being manipulated. By claiming that men were the manipulated ones, she turned the narrative on its head, challenging readers to rethink the dynamics of power and control in gender relationships. Her controversial stance sparked intense debates and forced society to confront uncomfortable questions about the true nature of gender roles and expectations.
The release of The Manipulated Man was met with a storm of controversy. Critics argued that Vilar's views were not only outdated, but also dangerously provocative. Many felt her arguments undermined the progress made by the feminist movement. Despite the backlash, Vilar remained steadfast in her beliefs. She argued that her intention was to spark a necessary dialogue about the dynamics of gender roles and societal expectations.
Today, Vilar's ideas continue to ignite heated debates. Some see her work as a bold critique of societal norms, while others view it as a relic of a bygone era. In contemporary discussions, Vilar's arguments are often juxtaposed with modern feminist theories. This contrast highlights the evolving nature of gender discourse and the ongoing struggle for equality.
At the heart of Vilar's work lies a provocative question. Are women truly oppressed, or have they manipulated men to serve their interests? Vilar challenges us to rethink traditional gender roles and consider the possibility that power dynamics are more complex than they appear. By questioning the status quo, Vilar invites readers to explore the hidden dimensions of gender relations and the subtle ways in which power is exercised in everyday life.
The book, The Manipulated Man, continues to resonate, sparking debates and discussions even decades after its initial publication. Its bold critique of societal norms still challenges readers to reflect on the underlying power dynamics in gender relations.
The Manipulated Man pushes us to question and re-evaluate traditional gender roles. It invites us to consider how these constructs have shaped our lives and the ways in which we can perhaps move beyond them.
By opening up a dialogue about gender manipulation, the book fosters a deeper understanding of the complexities involved. It encourages readers to engage in meaningful conversations about equality and the societal expectations placed on both men and women.
Navigating the complexities of gender dynamics requires a nuanced approach, one that acknowledges the historical context while striving for a more equitable future. The Manipulated Man serves as a catalyst for these important discussions, urging us to think critically about the roles we play in perpetuating or challenging these dynamics.